And let's see here. We are at 44 minutes. Should we do the real hot topic issue?
We got 10 minutes.
We've got
Mickey's
10.
sitting behind me. Mickey's right here.
He's ready. We should tell Mickey what we think about this, and we'll kind of just jump straight to it so you can understand. But yeah, people are calling for Splash Mountain to be changed. Now, let's stress once more. Obviously, racism is bad. We definitely don't agree with it, and what happened to George Floyd was horrible. But one of the things that's definitely been occurring is I don't mind introspection on how we deal with the police and everything, but sometimes I think we're overreaching a little bit too much. Like we're overcompensating. And Song of the South has always been a problematic movie. So problematic that Disney has never officially released it on DVD or VHS in the States, although I have a bootleg DVD, so it's not exactly the most difficult film to get. And Splash Mountain has been a iconic ride at Disneyland. You go to Disney World quite frequently, don't you, Mark?
Yes, I do.
So I guess I should first ask before we get too far, would Splash Mountain make your top 10 rides at Disney World?
Yeah, it's a pretty good ride. I would say let's not say Disney World, let's say Magic Kingdom. Yeah, I would say the three mountains at Magic Kingdom certainly make my top 10.
Right, Space Mountain, Thunder Mountain, and Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
So, and Splash Mountain is just really popular. The line is always long, even when it's freezing. There's usually a line for Splash Mountain, which kind of goes to show how much people love it. It's like 20 degrees outside. They're still going to ride Splash Mountain. But it's based off this movie that Disney, frankly, likes to pretend doesn't exist, and the movie is problematic. And as we do a lot of, we start looking at us as a society and how we view certain things, and we're now reevaluating whether or not we should air Cops or PD Live or Paw Patrol, I guess. And a lot of people there's a petition going on to change Splash Mountain, to remove the characters. Now, before I get into what their solution is, because it's actually not a terrible solution, I don't think Splash Mountain, the ride, is problematic. I mean, it is based off a movie that's problematic, but they really went out of their way to kind of almost divorce the ride from the movie. There's no Uncle Remus in the ride. There's no Johnny in the ride. Many of the songs which were sung by happy slaves do not appear. Well, they aren't slaves, but happy plantation workers. They don't appear in the ride. And when you start removing elements like that, what do you have? You have a ride about a rabbit and being chased by a fox and a bear. That's pretty much what you have. So I don't think the ride itself is problematic, but now because it has this connection, people just want to, rebrand it altogether. Now, before we talk about what they want to rebrand it to, which I actually do think is kind of genius, what do you think about the ride itself? And do you think the ride is problematic because it's based off this movie, or do you think the ride does a pretty good job of divorcing itself from the movie?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of things in, movies of the 20s and 30s and 40s and beyond that were very racial. I mean, in Dumbo, they had the two crows, and one was actually named Jim Crow. I mean, that's really in your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, there is no reference to Uncle Remus. So what it becomes is a tale that Uncle Remus told. It's a morality play is really what it is. And it's how the rabbit, how he fools the people who are chasing him through reverse psychology. And at the end, people are happy and they're cheering and they're singing songs. Right now, I do not see anything that anyone would find offensive if they didn't watch the movie and make the connection between that and Uncle Remus. So, having said that, and maybe I don't want to jump ahead of what can step on your toes. But having said that, I mean, Disney has a history of tweaking things that they feel are going to be problematic or are changing with the times. A perfect example is what they did with the pirates.
Of the Caribbean.
And instead of now having the women in the town that they just pillaged being auctioned off, they have people's possessions being auctioned off. Instead of shouting, "We want the redhead," is now one of the pirate auctioneers saying it's the rum that they want. So it's a historical thing that Disney does. They have changed rides, every ride you can imagine. They've changed and added things to Haunted Mansion, which is, a very classic attraction. They've changed pirates. In my mind, I think I don't see the racial implications there, but I don't have a big problem with them changing it either because, I like the ride, but, I'm not in love with all the singing and dancing in the riverboat. A change might be good. It wouldn't bother me that much.
All right. Now, what people are suggesting, and it actually makes a lot of sense when you really get down to it, is they want to change it to the Princess and the Frog. Because in the Princess and the Frog, there's the bayou and, the lily pad. So there's like a water element to the Princess and the Frog. And it's like, well, if you're going to change it to something, that does make a lot of sense. Although I will say, I don't know if Princess and the Frog would fit with the whole critter country theme. So maybe they could do something like Zootopia. I don't know. But the big question is, will Disney do this? Because I think Splash Mountain comes up for debate at least once every 2 years. At least once every 2 years, someone kind of points out that, hey, that's based off that movie that nobody's seen, but it's really problematic, so we should change it. But when you look at just how big that ride is, because, it's not just like changing the characters. You got to get rid of the Briar Patch, and maybe even the top of the mountain has to be changed because that probably wouldn't be themed very well with Princess and the Frog or anything. So it would cost a lot of money to retheme this ride.
Unless they do a real crummy change like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy in California. That was the most hideous change when they took the they didn't even change the shape of the building. They just stuck a bunch of Tinker Toys on it and called it Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, although I will admit, I do like the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's way more intense now. But you're right. When I look at that thing, it's like that. It looks like a hotel. It looks like a hotel. Also, this is like a little fun story. I'll always resent them for changing it a little bit because when I worked at Disney and my parents came and I took them to Disneyland for the first time in a while, they had never been to California Adventure, and we're driving to the parking lot, and my dad sees the Tower of Terror and the burnt out thing, and he said, "Oh, look, honey, that building burned down." And I had to tell him it was a riot at that point. But it kind of goes to show how clever Disney really was with design. But you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like that. That's what was kind of neat about it. It's like, okay, when you looked at the Tower of Terror, it's like, okay, it actually looked like a hotel, so it didn't look out of place, even outside Disneyland. But that space thing, it is pretty ugly. I will admit. So
I think where they're missing their bet with the Frog Prince, and I'm surprised they didn't do this instantly, is just open the restaurant, for crying out loud. It's so obvious. And they have, 4 parks in Florida in which to do that. Why they have not yet opened a restaurant is beyond me. That's the whole theme of the movie.
Yeah, I do not know either. It's really, really strange. So anyway, I would hate to lose Zippity Doodah. I really do love that song. And I actually, here's an interesting story. I actually showed me and my wife watched Songs of the South fairly recently because it had been in the news and she'd realized she had never watched this movie before. So she wanted to watch it. And I'm like, okay, well, keep in mind, we'll talk about this. And afterwards, she said, it was cute. It was not great. It was cute. And she's like, but I loved Zippity Doo-Dah. Like, that was just movie magic. So I hate to, and I kind of feel that way with the theme park ride. Like at the end when like they're all on the boat and they're singing that song. I kind of feel like that's theme park magic, if you will. And I would hate to lose that. Now, one thing I will add, just so that we can end this on this topic on a very, very humorous note, if you will, because people wish that Disney would just apologize for Song of the South, and technically, they did apologize for Song of the South. This is an official sorry board game with the Song of the South characters on it. So I think this is as close as you're going to get to Disney apologizing for that movie.
I don't know. It's kind of weird to expect people that were not even born when the movie came out to apologize for it. That strikes me as weird, but I don't know what it's like to go through the Black experience, so I'm not gonna take a position. I always thought stuff like that was kind of peculiar.
And as a film fan and historian, I don't believe in censorship. I don't believe in editing. I believe you should contextualize things, but I kind of think that when you hide things, it makes things worse than it is. And one of the things about the Splash Mountain controversy that's interesting is, since a lot of people have not seen the movie, they're kind of just taking people's word for it. And I know someone who has not seen the movie, did not know there was a movie based off of it, and honestly asked, what's racist about that ride? It has a bunch of singing animals in it. And you actually have to get into a history lesson before they even realize what the problem even is. And that I don't know. So anyway, we don't normally talk about theme parks on this channel, but we're both big Disney fans, and Splash Mountain is such a huge iconic ride. I kind of figured we'd like to at least discuss it a little bit. But I'm sure whatever, if they decide to change it, it'll still be the same fun ride, and the retheme might not be bad. I still like the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, even though like the outside, as you said, was a plaster job.
I've never been to it.
Oh,
I've never been to the California. I love the Tower of Terror. I think it has overtaken Haunted Mansion as one of my very favorite rides at Walt Disney World. And so I'm glad that they are keeping it and having Guardians of the Galaxy be its own complete thing over that Epcot. Right. Why it fits in Epcot, I don't know, but nevertheless.
Well, that's just another thing that, and I know we're kind of getting to another topic here, but I don't think Disney's themed lands mean anything anymore, because it's like they have a Star Wars land now, but then you still have Star Tours and the Star Wars Hyperspace Mountain in Tomorrowland, which, by the way, I warned my friends of this. When Frozen was like on top of the world and they were saying, oh, Frozen's annoying me right now, but I can't wait for Star Wars Land. I told my friends, watch it. Because if you think Frozen's annoying at Disneyland, wait till Star Wars gets a hold of it. Like, it's going to be.
I always think they overdid it with Frozen, though. They jumped on that Frozen bandwagon. Who knows why they decided Frozen was going to be their pet?
Well, they decided it was going to be their pet because it made a lot of money, and everyone loved it. And look, it was a Lion King level success. I even had to explain to some people, and they said, "Let It Go" is a horrible song. It's like, no, it's not. It's a great song. You're just tired of hearing it. And I can tell you this with certainty because I remember being in 1994 or 95, whenever it was, and Hakuna Matata was everywhere. And oh my gosh, I couldn't stand it after a while. But then, at one point, Lion King got so overbearing that it's like, I honestly said, this is the worst thing Disney's ever made. But
they took the best attraction at all of Epcot, maybe other than Soarin'. They took the favorite Maelstrom in Norway, was already the most famous ride, the most popular ride, like I said, with the possible exception of Soarin'. And then they sliced it. They didn't even use originality. They kept the same track. All they did was stuck character. They took Vikings out and put snowmen in. I don't know. It just seemed to be so hack. I wish they just would have started from scratch. If they had to give it its own ride, yeah, be nice and give it its own ride.
Well, that's what Disney does. I mean, they decided to update It's a Small World. Let's put Disney characters throughout this thing, and it's like, okay, look, it's probably not that annoying, but at the same time, it's like, I talk about taking something that's not about Disney and making it about Disney somehow. The whole concept of It's a Small World is we're all the same, and it's a small world. And I mean, aside from the fact that the song gets annoying, it's really poetic when you really stop and think about it.
Annoying.
It's a little annoying. But you know,
is it as bad as Hakuna Matata?
I don't know if it's as bad as a Hakuna Matata. Well,
but you'll never forget, a smile means friendship for everyone.
Exactly.